The story begins with a young boy named Walter, who absolutely loves inventing gadgets. He's always experimenting with things around the house, trying to build machines that could help people. One day, his mom, Wendy, who works as a police officer, walks into his room and asks what he's doing. Walter excitedly says, "I'm building a machine to keep you safe." He proudly demonstrates the device. But just then, Wendy realizes it's time for her to leave for duty. Walter quickly says he wants to come with her, so he can keep working on his inventions. But Wendy gently tells him, "Nope, you're going to school." Walter complains that school is boring, and everyone there thinks he's weird. Wendy smiles and tells him something important. Being weird isn't a bad thing. The world actually needs weird people. She explains that her job is to protect the city. But one day, Walter's ideas and inventions might protect the entire world, and when that day comes, everyone will wish they could be just like him. Hearing this makes Walter happy. He hugs his mom goodbye. 14 years later, now the story jumps to Japan. A dangerous weapons dealer named Kimura is about to sell a powerful drone, but a legendary spy named Lance Sterling arrives to stop the deal. Lance is famous for being fearless and unstoppable. He quietly takes out 2 guards outside the building and sneaks in. Lance works for a secret agency called HTUV, Honor, Trust, Unity, and Valor, an organization that protects the world. Using a small drone, Lance scans the building. Just then, the agency director Joy calls him. She tells Lance that he must retrieve a briefcase Kimura is holding. Inside it is their stolen weapon, the M9 drone. This drone runs on atmospheric energy, which means its battery never dies, and it never stops until its target is destroyed. Suddenly, one of Joy's agents notices something alarming. Lance is surrounded by enemies. Joy tells him to stop the mission and wait for backup, but Lance is extremely confident. He says a lion enters the battlefield alone. Then he hangs up. Right at that moment, the buyer arrives, a dangerous criminal named Killian, who has a robotic arm. Seeing the situation, Lance suddenly breaks a giant aquarium and uses the chaos to attack the guards. He demands Kimura hand over the briefcase. Kimura fights back, but Lance knocks him out instantly. Then Killian attacks Lance and scans his face. To escape, Lance drops an electric eel on him and breaks free. But dozens of Killian's men rush in. During the chaos, Killian escapes. Lance uses one of his powerful gadgets to fight them, but instead of a weapon, a glittery cat suddenly pops out. Everyone stops and stares at the cute cat in confusion. Even Lance has no idea what just happened. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lance quickly knocks out every enemy one by one. Then he uses a bomb to jump out of the building, steals the briefcase from Killian's helicopter, and escapes. Later, Lance returns to HTUV headquarters in Washington. Everyone cheers when they see him, because his bravery is legendary. But while walking back to the lab, the glittery cat pops out of his coat again. Now Lance is furious. He storms into the gadget lab to find out who made that thing. The scientists point toward the bathroom, because inside it is Walter's secret lab, where he builds all his strange inventions. Lance angrily confronts Walter for touching his equipment. He explains that he fights criminals every day and defeats fire with fire. Walter calmly replies that his cat gadget actually worked. According to science, seeing cats releases happy hormones in the brain. Lance disagrees. He believes a bomb is a much faster solution, but Walter insists that the world can also be saved with kindness. He even shows Lance a protective armor he invented, although it doesn't work very well yet. Walter explains something important. It's better to fix things than to destroy them. He suggests they could work together, but Lance ignores him and walks away. Walter follows him into the elevator. There, Walter tells him he's working on an invisibility gadget that can make someone completely disappear. But by accident, Lance activates one of Walter's gadgets on him, and suddenly, Walter's body turns soft and stretchy, like rubber. Walter tells Lance that the world can be saved in a better way. "We just need to change how we approach things," he says. But Lance refuses to listen. Instead, he fires Walter from his job. After that, Lance brings the briefcase to Joy, but when they open it, it's empty. Everyone is shocked. Just then, an internal affairs agent named Marcy arrives. She accuses Lance of stealing the drone himself. Her team immediately disables Lance's weapons and moves to arrest him. Joy tries to stop them. "He's our best agent," she argues. But Marcy's assistant shows the evidence. Security footage shows Lance using the drone to attack guards. Everyone is stunned, but Lance quickly realizes the truth. It must be Killian, the criminal with the robotic arm. He explains that Killian scanned his face earlier and must be impersonating him, but Marcy doesn't believe a word. She orders his arrest. Lance has no choice. He escapes. Meanwhile, the real Killian, disguised as Lance, is using the M9 drone to eliminate targets. He even attacks a weapons facility in the North Sea, taking out the guards with ease. Now the police are searching everywhere for Lance. Lance needs to prove his innocence. The only person who knows Killian is Kimura, but Kimura is in Mexico, and with every agency hunting him, getting there won't be easy. That's when Lance remembers Walter. Walter might be able to make him invisible. At the same time, Walter is at home, feeling sad after losing his job. He remembers his mother, who died during a mission when he was young. Still, Walter continues continues working on his invisibility serum. Finally, the formula is ready. He tests it on a feather from his pet pigeon Lovey. The feather disappears completely. Walter is thrilled. This invention might get him his job back. Right then, Lance suddenly shows up. He asks Walter about the invisibility serum, but Lance is thirsty and accidentally drinks the serum, thinking it's water. Walter panics. "You just drank the serum," he says. "In about 45 seconds, you'll turn into a pigeon." Moments later, Lance begins transforming, and soon, the world's greatest spy becomes a pigeon. Lance is furious. "I asked to be invisible, not a bird." Walter, however, is amazed. He explains that pigeons actually have advantages. They're everywhere in cities, and no one ever suspects them. But Lance demands to be turned back to normal. Walter admits something embarrassing. He hasn't created the antidote yet, but he already told the agency Lance was there. Unfortunately, Walter doesn't know that Lance has been declared a criminal. So Lance quickly grabs Walter and runs. Being a pigeon is harder than he expected. So Lance reluctantly brings Walter with him in the car. Soon, Marcy catches up and starts chasing them. Lance activates the car's autopilot weapons, but Walter stops him. "We're the good guys. We don't attack good people." Instead, Walter uses oil cans to create chaos on the road. Somehow they escape. After that, Lance and Walter fly to Mexico in a jet to find Kimura. Lance secretly considers throwing Walter out of the plane, but he can't, because Walter is the only one who can create the antidote. Walter tells Lance he's already working on it, but it will take 18 hours to finish. Lance is not happy. Meanwhile, Walter keeps explaining the benefits of being a pigeon. They can fly fast and even see things in slow motion. After hours of travel, they finally arrive at a hotel in Mexico, where Kimura is staying. Now Lance needs to get the key card to Kimura's room, but being a pigeon creates a new problem. Instead of spying, Lance starts pecking at food on the ground. Soon, 2 other pigeons show up, and even Lovey arrives. Apparently, they all think Lance is their leader. While trying to steal Kimura's keycard at the reception desk, the pigeons create total chaos. Lance ends up getting thrown into the trash, but surprisingly, those same pigeons manage to bring him Kimura's room keycard. Using the keycard, Lance sneaks into Kimura's hotel room. Since he's a pigeon, he tries to scare Kimura using his voice from behind, but he keeps telling Kimura not to turn around, or his secret will be revealed. Unfortunately, things go wrong. Lovey and the other pigeons suddenly fly into the room, and Kimura quickly realizes the truth. The legendary spy Lance Sterling is now a pigeon. Kimura starts beating him mercilessly. Lance tries to fight back, but as a tiny pigeon, he can't win. Just then, Walter rushes in to help. Using his special multi-pen gadget, Walter turns Kimura's body into rubber, but Kimura still refuses to talk. So Walter sprays him with a truth serum. Finally, Kimura reveals the truth. The man with the robotic arm, Killian, is heading to Venice. He plans to steal the agent database, which contains the names of every secret agent in the world. Once he gets it, he'll use the M9 drones to eliminate them all. Walter and Lance realize the danger. At that moment, Marcy and her agents arrive at the hotel. Walter and Lance quickly escape. To get away, Walter jumps off the building with Lance, and they crash downward, but they bounce off different objects along the way, avoiding the guards and somehow landing safely. Soon, Marcy's agents surround them. Walter runs to grab his multi-pen, but suddenly a pigeon eats it. Moments later, the pigeon starts spitting chewing gum everywhere. The gum traps all the agents in sticky chaos. Marcy arrives and quickly understands something. This wasn't Lance, because Lance usually defeats enemies with weapons. But this time, no one was hurt. They were just stuck in gum. Her assistant scans Walter using special glasses and discovers something shocking. Walter is a genius. He earned his PhD at just 15 years old, so it must have been his invention. Meanwhile, Killian has taken over the weapons facility in the North Sea. There, he's building hundreds of M9 drones. He's also holding a scientist hostage, who helps him upload the agent database into the drone system. Once uploaded, the drones will automatically hunt down and eliminate every agent. After finishing his plan, Killian kills the scientist and heads toward Venice to steal the database. At the same time, Walter and Lance also arrive in Venice by ship to stop him, but Marcy and her team are already there. She questions Walter about Lance. Walter refuses to tell her anything. Marcy tries a different approach. She calmly tells Walter that he's a brilliant kid with a bright future. She promises him resources, labs, and everything he needs to build his inventions, but only if he hands Lance over to her. Walter refuses. He believes everyone should work together. Just then, a huge explosion shakes the building. Marcy and her agents rush inside, but suddenly an M9 drone traps them and escapes with the agent database. Walter, Lance, and the pigeons chase after it. After a chaotic struggle, they manage to recover the database, but suddenly, Killian appears. He attacks Walter and starts beating him. Lance tries to help, but as a pigeon, he can barely do anything. Thinking quickly, Walter throws pieces of bread at Killian. Instantly, dozens of pigeons swarm him, trying to eat the crumbs. Using the distraction, Walter secretly attaches a tracker to Killian. Then he escapes with Lance. Moments later, Marcy arrives to capture Killian, but Killian disguises himself as Lance again. Marcy becomes suspicious when she notices something strange. His arm is robotic. Before she can react, Killian escapes with his drone. Meanwhile, Walter and Lance are traveling in a submarine, tracking Killian's location. Now Lance finally admits something important. Without Walter, he would never have found Killian. For the first time, Lance realizes they actually make a great team. Walter finally finishes the antidote, and Lance turns back to normal. Walter gives him some clothes, and together they head toward the weapons facility that Killian has taken over. But Lance doesn't want Walter to get hurt, so he tells him to go back. Walter refuses. Lance secretly uses a gadget to knock him out, because he doesn't want to lose the only friend he has. Then Lance enters the base alone. Inside, the place is completely destroyed. Soon he finds Killian, but suddenly, an M9 drone attacks Lance. Lance destroys it and throws it in front of Killian. He says, "Your drones can't hurt the agents anymore. I destroyed your weapon. Now give me the database." But Killian just smiles. Suddenly, thousands of drones appear and capture Lance. Killian says he will eliminate every agent in the world. Lance asks why he's doing all this. Killian finally reveals the truth. Years ago, Lance destroyed his entire gang during a desert mission. Killian shows his burned face, saying he never forgot what Lance did. Lance replies that Killian and his gang were criminals hurting innocent people. But Killian believes Lance never cared about lives. He just destroyed enemies with powerful weapons. Now he wants revenge. Killian launches thousands of drones to hunt down every agent. Just then, Killian's system gives him an alert. Walter is coming back to help Lance. Killian sends 2 drones to destroy him. Lance begs him not to hurt Walter, but Killian blows up the submarine Walter was using. Lance is devastated, but moments later, Walter appears alive with his pigeon friends. He survived using his bubble gadget. Lance is relieved and apologizes for knocking him out earlier. Walter smiles and says, "That's okay, we're a team." Lance finally admits Walter is a true friend. Now Walter shares his plan. They must hack Killian's robotic arm, because that arm controls all the M9 drones. Walter secretly starts hacking it, while Lance distracts Killian. This time, Lance even uses Walter's gadgets, stopping enemies without hurting them. Even the pigeons help in the fight. Soon, Marcy and her team arrive, and together they start destroying the drones. Marcy apologizes to Lance for doubting him earlier, but Killian launches hundreds more drones to attack them. At the same time, back at HTUV headquarters, agents hide for safety as drones approach. The drones even cut the power and move in to attack. Meanwhile, Walter continues hacking Killian's arm, but Killian realizes what he's doing and tries to escape. Walter uses his gadget to grab Killian, but the force pulls Walter into the sky with him. Lance watches helplessly. Walter finally succeeds in hacking the arm and prepares to shut down the drones, but Killian warns him, "If you do that, we'll both die. We're connected to the drones." Walter doesn't want anyone to die, so he traps Killian inside a protective bubble and shuts down the drones. The drones powering the attack suddenly stop. Agents around the world are saved. Everyone celebrates, but Walter begins falling from the sky. He has no gadget left to save himself. At that moment, Lance turns himself into a pigeon again, and with the help of his pigeon friends, they safely catch Walter in midair. Both of them smile. Together, they save the world. Killian also survives inside the bubble and is finally captured. Later, Joy promotes Walter to the leader of the team, and Lance proudly stands beside him. Now, working together, they continue protecting the world. If this story made you smile or inspired you, please like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more amazing movie stories like this.